Are you still here? Get out, parasite.
My mother-in-law, Kate, said this as she showed me a twisted smile. The parasite she was referring to was me. We've been living together for several years now, but Kate absolutely hated me, and insults like this had become a daily occurrence. I had just lost my husband a few days ago. Amidst my grief, Kate relentlessly told me to leave this house, as if pushing me to my breaking point. Even when my husband was alive, she was awful to me, but now that he was gone, no one was around to stop Kate. I realized her harassment would only get worse from here on out. Understanding this, I followed Kate's orders and left the house. However, something I never could have expected happened next, and Kate would come to deeply regret her words for the rest of her life. My name is Nancy Wilson. I'm a 35-year-old working housewife. I don't have any particular skills, and I'm just an average-looking person, inside and out. People like me are probably everywhere. I wasn't particularly smart, but I graduated from a university with an average ranking and started working as an office clerk at a real estate company. Life is so peaceful. Without any major upheavals, I led a life so calm that I could almost yawn. Well, being peaceful is a good thing, right? Everyone at my company was nice, and my parents, who lived far away, were healthy and hadn't suffered from any major illnesses. I had no health problems myself, and I managed to do well enough at work. If there was one concern, it would be that I hadn't had a boyfriend in years. But at the time, I was enjoying my job, and I didn't feel pressured about not having a boyfriend. Then one day, I'm late. I need to hurry home. After working late, I hurriedly ran through a deserted street. However, several men suddenly stood in my way. "Hey, what do you want?" The punks looked at me with a disgusting grin, watching me panic. I could feel their intentions in their gaze, and a chill ran down my spine.
"Where are you going, girl? Come hang out with us for a bit."
"No, let go of me."
"Don't shout."
The punks, who seemed drunk, blew their stinky breath at me as they grabbed my arm. If they forced me away like this, it was clear I'd be in for a terrible experience. I tried to escape, but their grip was unnaturally strong. Just as I was in despair, I was saved by a person I never expected.
"Hey, let her go. I'll call the cops."
A man in a suit, whom I didn't know, showed me his phone and stepped between me and the punks. Hearing the mention of the police, the punks let go of my arm, clicking their tongues before hurrying off. "Thank you."
"No problem. No problem. Let's walk together to a safer place."
The man smiled gently as if to reassure me. This man was Ryan, who would later become my husband. I was immediately struck by his kindness, and I couldn't help but feel drawn to him. It had been a while since I felt this way about a man. I thanked him and exchanged contact information with him almost against his will, pushing things forward to develop our relationship. At the time we started dating, I was 29 and Ryan was 33.
"Nancy, will you marry me?"
3 years later, Ryan proposed and we got married. Since we had already rented a house near each other's workplaces and were living together, there wasn't much change in our life after marriage. However, we were even happier now that we were officially a married couple. We were both working, so we hadn't found the right time to have kids. Before we knew it, Ryan was 39 and I was 35, and I thought to myself how fast time was flying by. "I've been thinking it's about time we have kids. What do you think, Ryan?" Work had calmed down recently, and I thought it was a good time, so I asked Ryan.
Yeah, I think so too. My work has settled down, so maybe it's a good time for that.
So we decided to start trying for a baby, but just then we got news that Ryan's mother, Kate, had collapsed.
They say she's not in danger, but the doctor mentioned she might need care. My father passed away a year ago, so if she needs care, I'll have to figure something out.
Ryan lowered his eyebrows and let out a deep sigh. It was a lot of work to get Kate settled in the hospital, but it looked like things were about to get even more difficult. Ryan's tired face showed how much he was thinking about it. Not wanting to make Ryan go through any more hardship, I made a suggestion. Hey, what do you think about moving to your family's house? That way, I can help out with a lot of things.
But I'd appreciate it if that happened. But are you sure, Nancy?
Of course. I don't want you to be the only one going through a hard time. From now on, let's share the burdens together. Ryan smiled happily at my words, though his eyes were a little teary. So we packed up and moved out of the apartment where we had lived for many years and into Ryan's family's home. However, something unexpected happened.
Hey, Nancy, this dish is way too spicy. Are you trying to send me to the hospital again?
Sorry, Kate. After we moved into his family's house, Kate started to pick on me. At first, she had seemed like a classy woman, always smiling when she saw me. I thought it would be fine to live with her, so I suggested we move in together, but gradually, Kate started showing her true nature. Lately, she would always complain about something, and criticizing my housework had become part of her daily routine. It's good that she's fully recovered and doesn't need care anymore, but being too energetic can be a problem. Since she was Ryan's mother, I didn't want to directly rebel against her. In fact, I hated conflict. Just watching people complain to store employees made me feel uncomfortable. With this kind of personality, even when Kate said unreasonable things, I couldn't bring myself to argue back. But it seemed like Kate, seeing how obedient I was, had begun to treat me worse lately. The other day, she hid the car keys on purpose, and when I was running late for work, she watched me frantically search with a cruel smile. If this keeps up, I'm going to get really stressed out. Even though Kate didn't need care, she didn't do any housework, leaving everything to me. Whenever I tried to make her do something, she would cause a huge scene.
If you overwork me and I end up in the hospital again, what are you going to do? Can you take responsibility for that?
This was her usual way of acting. Because of this, Ryan and I had to divide the household chores between us. We had already divided chores when we lived alone, but now we also had to take care of Kate, so the burden had increased. Coming home from work and doing chores was really exhausting. But if I asked Kate to help, she would make a big fuss, which would make everything even more tiring. She looks like she's more energetic than us, who are always exhausted from work. I sighed quietly when Kate wasn't around. However, things were about to get even worse. At first, Kate's harassment was only directed at me. But eventually, Ryan became her target as well. Until then, Kate had been bullying me without Ryan finding out. She would act like a normal mother toward him. But one day, Ryan came home early unexpectedly and witnessed Kate picking on me.
What are you doing, Mom? I can't believe you.
Ryan, wait, are you seriously going to side with your wife instead of your mother?
Of course. I can't believe you're doing such horrible things to my precious wife, There's no way I'm going to support someone who would do something like that.
Ryan stood between Kate and me as if to shield me and declared firmly. I felt a rush of happiness that nearly brought me to tears when I heard his words. It's not rare for husbands to side with their mothers and ignore their wives' mistreatment. But Ryan clearly chose to stand by me. However, it seemed that for Kate, these words were like a sentence of despair. From that day on, she started to take jabs at Ryan as well.
If I'd had another child, things wouldn't have turned out like this. I wouldn't be going through this terrible experience. I really wonder where I went wrong with raising him.
Although not as harsh as her treatment of me, Kate began to direct her sharp comments toward Ryan. Ryan would sigh in exasperation every day at Kate's behavior.
When Dad was still alive, she wasn't like this.
Ryan would say things like this, but I could tell that Kate was probably acting this way because I married Ryan. To Kate, Ryan was her only beloved son. To her, I was probably the thief who stole her precious son. I could sense this from her words and actions when I interacted with her. The fact that she started making snide remarks toward Ryan was likely a result of her frustration that her son didn't understand her love for him. Her love for him was twisted, but she truly did love him. Ryan, though confused by her behavior, still couldn't bring himself to abandon her. I wanted them to get along, but Kate's mistreatment of me didn't stop, and Ryan only grew closer to me. Then, one day, Kate did something truly outrageous. One day, I was getting ready to go out wearing my favorite necklace. Then, Kate approached me, wearing a sly, unpleasant smile.
Oh, Nancy, what a lovely necklace. Let me take a look at it.
Hey, please don't pull on it.
My eyesight is getting worse. I can't see well.
She said this as she tugged hard on my necklace. The necklace was delicate, and the chain needed to be handled carefully. I tried to stop her, but Kate pulled even harder, and eventually the chain broke. My precious necklace.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose.
This necklace was one my mother had worn since her youth. I had always admired it as a child, and when I got married, my mother gave it to me as a gift. Kate didn't know that, but still, there was no excuse for breaking someone else's necklace and acting this way. In fact, considering Kate's behavior, I believed she had deliberately tried to break the necklace. Without showing any remorse, Kate seemed satisfied with having destroyed my necklace, and she returned to her room, still smiling. I reluctantly put on another piece of jewelry and took the broken necklace to a repair shop. The shopkeeper said they could likely fix it, and I sighed in relief. When I got home, I reported the incident to Ryan.
I can't believe she would do something like that.
Ryan sighed deeply and held his head in his hands. He knew how much that necklace meant to me, so he was just as angry as if it were his own. Normally, when I received mistreatment from Kate, I would keep quiet to avoid burdening him. I didn't want to make him more tired from his already hard work. But I couldn't stay silent about this.
I've reached my limit. Nancy, let's leave this house and live just the two of us again.
But what about Kate?
She's so strong. She'll be fine on her own. More importantly, I don't want to see you hurt anymore. You're my precious family.
When I heard those words, I truly felt grateful that I married him. Afterward, we immediately began looking for a new place to live. We found a nice rental house and applied for a viewing right away. However, just 3 days after we applied for the viewing, Ryan suddenly passed away in an accident. I don't remember much about the time right after he died. The shock was so overwhelming that my mind seemed to refuse to remember it. Before I knew it, the day of Ryan's funeral had arrived, and I found myself serving as the head of the household in a daze.
It's your fault. Ryan lost his life because of you. Give me back my Ryan, you wicked wife.
I thought the voice sounded annoying, so I looked toward the source. There stood Kate, glaring at me with a face full of anger, insulting me.
Kate, stop. Ryan's death isn't Nancy's fault.
Shut up. You stay out of this. It's all her fault. If she hadn't married him, neither Ryan nor I would be suffering like this.
Ryan said he was happy being married to Nancy. You're wrong for saying such terrible things to his wife at a time like this.
Kate's younger sister, who I had met a few times before, was desperately trying to stop Kate from insulting me. She had always been kind to me and had shown great affection for Ryan. Her kindness reminded me so much of Ryan that I couldn't help but tear up.
Nancy, it's okay.
Kate became uncontrollable with her outbursts, and the men had to forcibly escort her out of the funeral hall. Even in such a difficult time, it seemed that Kate wanted to keep insulting me. I could understand her being distraught over losing Ryan, but I hadn't done anything wrong. It was clear that Kate just wanted to continue her mistreatment of me. With Ryan gone, I knew Kate's behavior would only get worse from here on out. My prediction turned out to be absolutely right. After Ryan's death, Kate constantly berated me. In a strange way, I almost respected how she managed to keep up such energy.
The funeral for Ryan should have been much more extravagant, but because you were so cheap with the money, we ended up with such a pitiful ceremony.
I never skimped on money for the funeral, and everyone who attended said it was a beautiful service.
Ryan must have been miserable being married to a woman like you.
Ryan had said that marrying me was the happiest thing in his life.
Ryan must have wanted a divorce from you.
The word divorce had never been mentioned before, and in fact, the person who Ryan wanted to separate from was Kate, not me. Kate had been making snide remarks at me based on her own misunderstandings. And then, after the memorial service, I was completely exhausted from the endless days with no time to grieve. I don't have any plans today, so let's rest for a bit. As I was exhausted at home, Kate came back, having been out somewhere, and said this to me.
Are you still here? Get out, parasite.
I looked at Kate's face. She had a nasty smile. At that moment, I felt something inside me snap. All right, I'll leave. After I had stayed silent through all of Kate's harsh words since Ryan's death, my sudden response took her by surprise.
Well, I see. Well, hurry up and pack your things. I can't wait to be rid of you.
Kate spat out her words, but surprised and still left for her room. I didn't respond to her words and quietly continued packing my things. Since I didn't have many belongings, I finished packing in about 2 days. I loaded my things into the car and began to leave the house. Kate watched me with a look of pure enjoyment.
What are you going to do now? You've been kicked out of this house. How will you live now?
I'll return to my parents' house for a while.
Oh, really? Well, being divorced, you'll never get remarried. Your parents must be so sad for having a daughter who's a failure. Your future is hopeless.
Saying that, Kate laughed gleefully. She continued with more cruel insults, but I just ignored them, knowing it was pointless to take them seriously. After I loaded everything into the car, I left without saying a word to Kate. 13 days after I left the house, I returned to my parents' house and was living a peaceful life. My parents were worried about me, who had lost my husband and been kicked out by Kate, but I surprised them both by getting along just fine. This was because I had a certain purpose now. Since I had the day off from work, I started preparing to accomplish my goal. Then I received a call from Kate. "Hello, what do you want?" I answered the phone with a curt attitude, but Kate, seeming to have no time to worry about my tone, shouted in a panicked voice.
Today, people who claim to be from a real estate agency came and told me that I need to leave because they're selling the house. They said the sale was being processed because you asked them to. What did you do to my house?
Hearing Kate's outburst, I couldn't help but smile with relief, knowing my plan had finally started to take shape. Then I decided to tell her a little truth. Your house? What are you talking about? The house and the land are actually in my name."
What?
Kate let out a dumbfounded noise, and I explained it to her in detail. A year ago, when my father-in-law passed away, Ryan had changed the deed of the family property to his name. Kate, living off her pension, couldn't afford to pay property taxes or any of the other necessary expenses. My father-in-law had left enough money for her living expenses for the next few years, but nothing beyond that.
Well, once the house no longer had anyone living in it, I was thinking about selling it eventually. Having it in my name at that time would make things simpler.
So Ryan had made sure to get Kate's approval. However, Kate didn't even try to listen properly.
Stop with these complicated talks. My husband just passed away, and I'm already so confused. Don't ask me about everything. Just handle it the way you want.
Instead, she snapped back and said that to Ryan. Ryan, though exasperated, continued with the necessary procedures. Kate kept telling everyone how hard it was for her to lose her husband, but Ryan was the one doing all the funeral arrangements and paperwork. She was the one who was always talking about her hardships, but it was Ryan who was genuinely struggling. Looking back, I can now see Kate's selfish nature starting to show at that time, not realizing that was my own fault. After Ryan passed, I immediately began the inheritance procedures. Luckily, I knew the contact information for the notary who helped us with your husband's estate, and I also knew what steps to take. Since Ryan seemed to be having such a hard time, I had been helping him as much as I could. I was present during the inheritance procedure for the house and land, so I already knew what documents were needed and how to move forward. Thanks to that, everything went smoothly. So the houses and land are mine now. I had been planning this even before you kicked me out, Kate. There's no need for me to stay in the houses where Ryan isn't around anymore. By the way, I asked the real estate agency I work for to handle the sale. The people from the company saw how you behaved at the funeral, Kate, and they were all furious. When I told them about this plan, they all agreed to help. Many of my colleagues attended Ryan's funeral, and they all saw Kate insulting me. When I told them I was thinking about selling the family property, they all eagerly got involved in helping me take action against Kate. I felt lucky to have such supportive coworkers. So, I'm selling the house. Please move out as soon as possible. After hearing my explanation, Kate seemed speechless on the other end of the phone. She didn't say anything, and I sighed before speaking up. Is that enough? This is a waste of time, so I'm hanging up now. At that, Kate snapped back to reality and, flustered, began insulting me as usual.
What? How dare you sell my house without my permission?
Like I said, the house has been Ryan's for the past year, and I've gone through the proper procedures, so now it's mine. It's actually you who's been living there without permission. My point was completely reasonable, but it seemed Kate couldn't accept it. Her anger boiled over, and she started yelling at me in a furious voice.
Not only did you take my precious son, now you're trying to take my house too. You're a wicked wife. Ryan must have been so pitiful to marry someone like you.
At those words, my anger reached its peak. Without meaning to, I blurted out something I hadn't planned to say. Oh, you really thought Ryan was your precious son?
Of course I did.
But Ryan hated you with all his heart. Kate was once again speechless on the other end of the phone. My words were so unexpected that she couldn't respond properly.
What are you saying? That's impossible, right? You're just making up lies because you want to win the argument.
Shall I show you the proof? I'll take a screenshot of my messages with Ryan and send it to you. Once you see it, you'll realize just how much Ryan hated you. I kept the call going while opening my messaging app. Since Ryan often expressed his dissatisfaction with Kate, it was easy to find the screenshots. I sent them straight to Kate's account. I've sent it. Take a look and see for yourself. There was a rustling sound on the other end of the line. After a moment of silence, I could hear Kate gasp.
This can't be a lie.
Kate muttered something in a voice that sounded shocked as she processed what she had just seen. The messages I had sent contained things like this.
I'm really done with Mom. How can she say such awful things to you? It's not sane. She complains about the cooking, but she never cooked properly herself, and she's not even refined enough to judge anyone else's cooking.
Other messages read,
She calls you useless, but she's the one who dumped all the housework on us while doing nothing herself. She always complains and does nothing, and yet she acts so high and mighty. I've put up with it because she's my mom, but I can't stand it anymore. I found some good places for us to live. Let's forget about such a terrible person and live happily together. My family is just Nancy and Dad, who passed away.
There are also several instances where Ryan openly rejected his real mother. Ryan had completely lost his affection for his biological mother. Well, that's understandable. After witnessing Kate's behavior, it would be hard to expect anyone to continue loving her.
This is something you fabricated.
Still not admitting it? You're really being stubborn. Well, how about I show you Ryan's phone, which I have in my hands right now? You'll see undeniable proof, no fabrication possible. Kate finally seemed to acknowledge the reality in front of her, letting out a speechless cry of despair. Did she really think that as her child, Ryan would never dislike her, no matter what she did? That's not true. Even with biological parents, love has its limits. Kate had long passed the point where Ryan's love for her could sustain any longer. Ryan was a kind-hearted, loving person. For someone like him to reach his breaking point shows just how terrible Kate's actions had been. Kate was truly hated and despised by Ryan. Confronted with this reality, her earlier forcefulness had completely disappeared. Do you get it now? Ryan hated you, and I truly hate you too. So, I don't care what happens to you or whether you lose the house. Honestly, I felt a sense of satisfaction, but I didn't voice it because I'm not as cruel as Kate. I'll say it again. Please leave my house right now. Kate's breath became ragged after hearing my firm words. She was silent for a while, but then In an unusually bright voice, she spoke.
Nancy, could you reconsider?
What?
I'll apologize for everything. I admit I had my faults. I'll apologize as much as you want, so please, don't sell the house.
She admitted to having faults? No, everything that happened was Kate's fault from the start. But now she was making it seem like I had some blame too. Kate was only pretending to apologize, showing no real remorse for what she had done.
Please, forgive me. What will I do if I'm kicked out of this house? You wouldn't do something so terrible to an old woman, right? We're family. Family doesn't treat each other like this, do they?
Now, she was trying to pull at my heartstrings with a pitiful tone. But I already knew her true nature. I glared at her and firmly responded, "Family, don't joke with me. I've already submitted the papers to end our legal ties. So we're strangers now."
Really?
The day I left my in-laws' house, I stopped by the local government office on my way to my parents' house to submit the forms to end my legal ties with them. I wanted to stay married to Ryan forever, but I didn't want to have any further relationship with that horrible Kate. I apologized to Ryan in my heart and submitted the end of kinship forms. The paperwork was accepted, and I was officially no longer related to Kate. So, we're not family anymore. Honestly, just imagining being family with someone I despise so much makes me feel sick. You're just a nuisance, squatting in someone else's house. Can you stop bothering me, someone who is no longer even related to you?
Those words.
Kate's voice trembled in despair, and I went on. If you refuse to leave the house, I have a plan. I spoke to someone at work about this, and they introduced me to the company's lawyer. While this lawyer isn't specialized in such issues, they promised to refer me to a specialist in this area. You should know that pleading won't work with a lawyer, right? Well, it certainly doesn't work with me either. Kate's breath became more ragged. She seemed confused, confronted with a reality she couldn't avoid. But I didn't feel any sympathy for her, and I wouldn't show any mercy. I'll say it again, I absolutely hate you. Just talking to you like this is stressing me out. I don't care what happens to someone like you. Whatever difficult times you face from now on, it's all your own fault. All you can do is regret and reflect on what you've done. Spend your life regretting the way you treated me and Ryan. That seemed to be the breaking point for Kate, and she suddenly started crying. I ignored her loud sobs and pressed the end call button. After blocking Kate's contact, I placed my phone aside and resumed preparing the paperwork to sell the house, which had been delayed by her call. After this phone call, Kate seemed to start getting ready to leave the house. Apparently, the mention of a lawyer had been effective. Realizing she had no other option, she began to prepare for the move. Kate tried to rely on her relatives until she could find a place to stay, but everyone who had witnessed her outburst at the funeral rejected her. The only one who accepted her was her younger sister. However, even her sister didn't tolerate Kate's behavior.
I'll let you stay until you find an apartment, but after that, I'm cutting ties with you. Don't ever come to us for help again. I don't want to be associated with you.
Apparently, Kate's sister had been treated cruelly by her in the past. Until graduating from high school and leaving the house to start working, Kate had made her life miserable. Her sister had been holding a grudge against Kate for all those years. So to get her out of the house, she quickly found an apartment for her and got her signed up. The apartment was in a rundown building, but the rent was cheap enough that Kate could live there on her pension. Now, Kate was living a miserable life in that old apartment. Having lost both her family and any relatives to rely on, and with her toxic personality, she had no friends either, leading to a lonely existence. Considering all she had done to me, Ryan, and her sister, this was an appropriate consequence. Kate had done terrible things to me, but I could never thank her enough for giving birth to Ryan. That said, I had no intention of helping her now. Kate would have to spend the rest of her life regretting her actions. That was the price for the harm she caused to my beloved Ryan. I successfully sold the family house and used the proceeds to buy a grave for Ryan. Ryan now rests peacefully, quietly asleep under the grave. I hope he can sleep in peace until the day I join him. Though I stayed with my parents for a while, I didn't want to continue relying on them, so I now live alone in an apartment near their place. I have female friends who visit me, but no men are allowed in, and I have no intention of letting anyone in no matter what. I only loved Ryan, and I've decided to remain single for the rest of my life. My concerned female friends asked me to join a mixer. They were being so considerate, but I politely declined with a wry smile. No matter how attractive any man may be, my heart will never move. My heart is completely devoted to Ryan. The moment Ryan saved me that day, my love was taken by him. That's why I have no intention of dating anyone, and I will never remarry. But I am not lonely. Ryan is always by my side. Just remembering his face and voice fills my heart with a gentle warmth. That alone is enough for me. Ryan, I'm off. I smile at his photo and head to work as usual. In the photo, Ryan is smiling happily.
Take care, Nancy. Be safe.
I feel as though I hear his voice and smile back, imagining him. From now on, I'll live my peaceful days with Ryan's warm memories in my heart.